Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. It is safe to say that Matt Reeves' The Batman has become the standout superhero film of 2022 for Warner Brothers. This gripping thriller breathes new life into the vintage beloved characters such as Colin Farrell's take on the Penguin and Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman. However, none experienced a more remarkable makeover than Paul Dano's portrayal of the Riddler. Today, our topic of discussion is a comic book series delving into this particular Riddler's origin story, and the surprising twist is that the author is none other than the Riddler himself, Paul Dano. That's right, the actor ventured into the realm of comic book writing for the first time in his life last year with a 6-issue series titled The Riddler Year 1, which wrapped up earlier this year. When you take a moment to reflect, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, who else has clocked more hours dissecting Eddie Nashton's brainwaves, tracing his life story before the movie shenanigans, and mapping out the wild roller coaster ride through Gotham City that transforms a guy into the terror icon, if not Dano? So the only question remains, does he do justice to the Riddler Year 1? Well, hang in there till the finish line as we dive deep into this comic series, and by the end, you might just be the judge of that.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The Riddler Year 1, a prelude to The Batman. In the movie The Batman, the Riddler isn't depicted as the typical whimsical wordplay enthusiast with enigmatic puzzles. Instead, he evolves into a genuinely terrifying antagonist, standing tall among the most formidable foes that the Dark Knight has confronted. This portrayal represents a notably different version of the character we typically encounter. Here, the Riddler is an expert of the digital era, causing havoc in Gotham through precise assassinations and intricate traps, ultimately leading the city to a vengeful climax. His driving force was painfully genuine. He was a furious young man who deeply resented the cards life had dealt him and decided to reshuffle the deck for the world. He even traded his well-known question mark-covered outfit for a stylish leather ensemble representing a notable departure from the character's usual appearance. His appearance likely drew inspiration from the Zodiac Killer, who, just to clarify, wasn't a cheerful character by any means. Let's explore how Dano pieced together an extensive puzzle to depict his interpretation of Edward Nashton, better known as the Riddler. Chapter 1, Beginning of a New Origin. This narrative rewinds time to the year before Edward Nashton's transformation into the Riddler. At this point, Edward is employed at an accounting firm called KTMJ, where he diligently calculates figures for an ungrateful boss and a manipulative case leader who claims his achievements as their own. We also witness him feeling jealous of his case leader Zach, and it's pretty understandable considering he had more skills but lacked a fancier degree or influential connections. His sole solace lies in a community of puzzle enthusiasts to which he belongs, but even within that group, he struggles to reveal his true identity or engage in meaningful conversations due to his social awkwardness. The story begins on a typical workday where our boy Edward Nashton impresses Zach with his speedy accounting skills. But Zach, he sets those files aside like last week's leftovers. As Edward heads home, he's appalled by the city's sorry state, haunted by bizarre thoughts. Even a hallucination of a random stranger, but wait, his favorite website introduces him to the enigmatic Batman, the city's would-be savior. The following day, Edward discovers Zach's actually submitted his work. Their bosses are impressed, so they assign him to investigate New Beginnings Animal Rescue. Edward finds shady $10,000 weekly payments to some sneaky parent company, all cleverly disguised. On his way home, he witnesses Batman save a damsel from goon trouble and shares the story online, stirring up a buzz. The next day, Edward presents his findings on the New Beginnings Animal Rescue case to Zach, hinting it might be dirty money worth digging into. Zach thinks this could be his ticket to a promotion and takes it to their big boss, Mr. Stone, but alas, Stone tosses their allegations aside and schedules a meeting to hush Zach up. Our man Edward isn't giving up that easily though. He tails Stone to a diner for a heart-to-heart about their findings, but Stone waves it off, warning Edward about breaking the rules and losing his job. Undeterred, Edward explores new avenues. Attending a trial, he discovers a surprising twist. The guy on trial, Higgins, claims he was mugged by Batman and that suspicious drug planted by the vigilante, Higgins says. And guess what? Higgins is tied to New Beginnings and has some connections to the Maroney organization. Visiting the company, Edward's inquisitive nature raises eyebrows and he quickly skedaddles. Outside, he spots Stone and Zack meeting with the woman Batman rescued at a nearby club. Well, connect the dots, folks. These events are all intertwined. Dano demonstrates a firm grasp of narrative structure as a writer, employing panel layouts to delve into the Riddler's distorted psyche within this fresh portrayal of Gotham City. He utilizes a stylized blend of first-person narration alongside excerpts from Riddler's journal, and these elements harmonize to craft an unsettling narrative. By narrating the story through Eddie's viewpoint, readers gain insight into how his online pursuits led to his radicalization, while simultaneously shedding light on his mental health struggles. The unconventional presentation of Nashton's psyche unfolds across entire pages, offering a unique glimpse into his inner world. This version of Gotham City is dripping with atmosphere, and it's got a dose of gloom that really helps mold our future villain. There's this one exciting moment where we witness the Riddler's first run-in with the Dark Knight, and this issue decides to get a little creative, imagining Batman as something much scarier than your typical human. This take on Batman reveals how downright scary Bruce can appear to regular folks in Gotham, and how a twisted mind can look at the Caped Crusader and cook up their own wild ideas about our masked crime-fighting friend. Chapter 2. Edward's espionage. The next day, Edward goes back to work as usual, and to his annoyance, he discovers that Zack has been promoted to Junior Division Director with an added sprinkle of condescension in his attitude. Still skeptical about Mr. Stone brushing off his discoveries, Edward decides to play detective by staying late that night when everyone else heads home. He sneaks into Stone's office to cross-check his findings and unearths some shredded pages related to waterfront industries. These shreds lead to payments made by a certain Mr. June and other mysterious transactions in various parts of Gotham, including the renewal program. When Edward returns home, he faces an unexpected encounter with a stranger who oddly knows his name. This strange encounter triggers Edward's curiosity, prompting him to delve into Renewal's activities and speculate about their potential role in his less-than-ideal upbringing. Edward then sets his sights on investigating New Beginnings and keeping a close eye on Mr. June, discovering that he regularly pays a young woman. These discoveries raise his suspicions about both the payments and his own financial situation. Sometime later, Stone requests a meeting with Edward, claiming to have uncovered something fishy regarding New Beginnings and its financial accounts. He invites Edward to assist in preparing a potential case against Wayne Enterprises. Although Edward initially accepts and feels optimistic about this opportunity, he is skeptical about Stone's true motives. As Edward continues to receive reports about Batman's operations, he decides it's time to take matters into his own hands. He embarks on a journey to learn how to hack into CCTV systems, allowing him to spy on New Beginnings and their activities. He dedicates his free time to investigating their surveillance feeds and discovering their involvement in certain activities in the area. Inspired by Batman, Edward decides it's time to play the hero himself. He starts stocking up on military-grade weaponry like any sensible aspiring superhero, right? One fateful night, Edward plants a bug on Mr. June and becomes a rooftop spy. From this vantage point, he witnesses a heated confrontation between June and Stone, where Stone has scrutinized their financial records and uncovered discrepancies. When shown photos of the woman receiving payments from June, it's revealed that she is his daughter, and he's been providing her with personal funds to leave Gotham. Edward also learns of their connection to Carmine Falcone. However, Stone remains skeptical and orders Higgins to carry out an execution. Monitoring the situation through his feeds, Edward witnesses the execution and learns that Higgins has stolen money to pay off his bail. The following morning, June's daughter, Anna, faces a not-so-friendly confrontation with Higgins before she can leave Gotham. This comic is incredibly thought-provoking, both on an emotional and technical level. Steven Subik's artwork serves as a double-edged sword precisely because it completely immerses you into Riddler's mindset, to the extent that sometimes it becomes a bit challenging to distinguish one character from another. Subik's coloring is exquisite, full of vibrancy and expression, but it's also quite intense, encouraging you to take a second look at each panel. The storytelling skillfully alternates between unsettling, nightmarish portrayals of Edward and relatable moments. This approach effectively illustrates the transformation of a man who is undoubtedly mentally troubled and disturbed, yet still retains an inherent innocence and a fundamentally good-natured side. Chapter 3. The strain on Edward's mental health. The third chapter begins with Edward submitting evidence of June's murder to the police commissioner. He then returns to his job and continues his investigations into Wayne Enterprises for Stone, who is searching for any suspicious activities within the company. Simultaneously, Edward maintains his probe into New Beginnings, hoping that law enforcement will eventually step in. During his inquiry, he discovers that June's daughter, Anna, has been forced to take over her father's role at the front of the operation. After a few days, Edward realizes that the police are unlikely to intervene. He manages to establish contact with Anna through an online messaging service, although their communication abruptly ends when he inquires about the lack of police involvement. Edward proceeds to investigate Waterfront Industries, tracking them to an abandoned warehouse in Gotham Docks. He discovers that this warehouse had previously been used as a front by Maroney and witnesses a deal between Higgins and a member of the GCPD. Edward gets in touch with Anna once more, disclosing his awareness of the GCPD's wrongdoing and their engagement in money laundering on behalf of Drops. Although she indirectly confirms his allegations, she refuses to disclose the identity of her employer. Edward's investigation into Maroney continues, and he learns that most of Maroney's assets were confiscated and incorporated into the renewal program. He suspects that wealthy individuals are behind this move, utilizing criminals to conceal their wealth from illicit activities. Edward fabricates anomalies in the Wayne Industries accounts to further scrutinize their accounts and gains access to them with Stone's approval. He discovers these accounts are held at Gotham Mountain Security and contacts individuals on conspiracy theory message boards to investigate the company. Eventually, he connects with another user who is employed by the company and collaborates with them to infiltrate the company's storage and examine their accounts. Over several months, Edward persistently investigated Wayne Enterprises and KTMJ accounts, but his efforts yielded no additional information. One day at work, Edward uncovers that KTMJ also represents the Renewal Project, prompting him to explore Renewal's accounts. That evening, he uncovers evidence indicating they have been funneling dirty money for Gotham's politicians, including Mayor Mitchell, Commissioner Savage, and DA Coulson, using political donations and renewal funds for laundering. Due to his reliance on renewal funds during his upbringing and numerous rejections, Edward's mental health begins to deteriorate. While leaving a message for Batman outside his apartment, Edward notices a spotlight with a bat emblem shining nearby. It dawns on him that he should assume a role similar to Batman's to expose the conspiracy. In terms of visual elements, this particular installment is quite intricate. Paul Dano certainly injects some intriguing concepts into what is portrayed, such as the computer terminal Edward employs for communication. Various forms of language are visually represented, whether it's the stretching of a body bag, the detailed paperwork documenting Edward's observations, or a prominent Y, forming a web of unsettling visions later in the issue. These visual cues in the text are likely linked to the Riddler's profound fascination with puzzles and communication, and it's evident that this intricate theme is well represented here. Throughout this issue, we observe Edward's growing self-assuredness in his investigative abilities. He continues to yearn for Batman's assistance and harbors self-doubts, but he is becoming more daring and willing to take risks. It's clear that he is on a trajectory that will eventually lead him to invest all his efforts in capturing Batman's attention. However, Batman remains an enigmatic figure in the series, which is fitting since this story primarily focuses on the Riddler. Chapter 4, From Orphanage to Obsession. Issue number 4 temporarily sets aside the primary storyline and transports us to a previously hinted period in Edward Nashton's life, his childhood at the Gotham Orphanage. Within these pages, we unearth the genuine origins of his transformation into a potential psychotic villain. The comic opens with a strikingly illustrated page featuring a wide-eyed, pale-faced, screaming infant left on the orphanage's doorsteps, which resembles a rather eerie and ominous house. This initial scene sets the tone for what follows, as artist Steven Subic has transformed this issue into something resembling a horror comic. During his early years at the orphanage, young Edward receives news that his birth mother has been committed to Arkham Asylum and later learns of her passing through a visit from a priest. Growing up, Edward develops a deep admiration for Thomas Wayne, who frequently visits the orphanage with his family. Edward's intellect becomes apparent as he matures, showing a solid grasp of chemistry and a keen interest in puzzles. However, he also becomes the target of bullying, a particularly disturbing incident forcing him to kill a turtle in self-defense. Edward eventually exacts revenge on his primary tormentor by tricking him into incorrectly assembling a bomb. During one of Thomas Wayne's visits to the orphanage, he publicly announces his mayoral candidacy and introduces the Gotham Renewal Program. Edward participates in the choir during the event, catching Thomas's attention. This interaction marks the first time Edward speaks, and he becomes infatuated with the wealthy philanthropist despite ridicule and warnings from his peers. One fateful night, Edward personally delivers his application for the renewal program to Wayne Tower. However, he later learns of the tragic murders of both Thomas and Martha Wayne. Adding to his despair, his application is rejected, triggering a severe mental breakdown. Edward's resentment for Thomas's son, Bruce, intensifies as he believes Bruce receives preferential treatment due to his wealth. Upon leaving the orphanage, Edward begins his education at Gotham Community College. In his first week, he impresses a teacher by completing a semester's worth of work in record time. The teacher guides him toward KTMJ and helps him secure a job there. As Edward reflects on his life before taking a job, he contemplates whether knowing the truth earlier might have led to different decisions. Paul Dano is unraveling two enigmas surrounding the Riddler. The first involves understanding how Edward evolved into the character we encounter in the movie, locked in a vendetta against the Falcones, Waynes, and virtually all the influential figures in Gotham. The second puzzle aims to reveal the convoluted journey that shaped Edward's mind into its exceptionally twisted state. Two more issues to go. Chapter 5, Inside the Riddler's Journal. So far, Steven Subic, the artist, has skillfully depicted Nashton's fragmented psyche, while the writing has offered a nuanced portrayal of a man grappling with his inner struggles. However, as we dive into this issue, the comic takes on the appearance of Edward Nashton's personal journal. The pages resemble financial audit forms, but they are filled with Nashton's thoughts. Scrawled in messy handwriting, his mind has lost its grasp on reality, unable to contain the delusional logic that has consumed him, transforming an initially righteous cause into a fanatical crusade. This issue holds a unique position as the most significant, yet seemingly inconsequential chapter of Riddler's story. It unfolds almost entirely within Riddler's journal, overflowing with frenzied notes and contemplations about his place in the world. It's crucial to emphasize that despite the unconventional premise, art still plays a vital role. This blending of imagery blurs the line between a sketch of Riddler's design and a manifestation of his chaotic thoughts spilled onto the page. Furthermore, Riddler's journal includes several self-taken photos and concludes with a more traditional comic segment at its very end. The comic's initial and concluding pages testify to Subic's prowess in visual storytelling. He has masterfully transformed the Riddler Year One into a horror-themed comic, even though the horrors are born from Nashton's imagination. As the issue draws to a close, we witness Edward fully prepared with his suit, mask, weapons, and even a well-thought-out alias, the Riddler. All of this sets the stage for an exhilarating final chapter in the series. Chapter 6, Completing the Transformation. Issue number 4 of Riddler explores the past, and issue 5 delves into a stream of consciousness. However, the final installment primarily focuses on the logistical aspects of a prequel. It delves into Eddie's actions in the days leading up to the events of the Batman, how he juggles his schemes with his day job and addresses the fate of the people in his life who aren't featured in the film. Most of these aspects are addressed and resolved, but a few intriguing exceptions exist. After a prolonged and agonizing psychological journey, Edward Nashton has reached a critical juncture. His continuous descent has led him to a point where he's prepared to actively confront the corrupt forces in Gotham. Fueled by bitterness, a sense of abandonment, and a conviction that the world is conspiring against him, he has arrived at a moment where he is poised to strike out. While the previous issues brimmed with psychotic energy in both its writing and artwork, the final issue of the Riddler Year One presents Nashton in a more composed state of mind. Taking action on his plan seems to have given him newfound clarity. There are no unexpected twists in terms of the plot. It primarily involves setting all the pieces in their proper places. We witness the initial stages of Nashton's revenge against those he perceives as the antagonists in his narrative and his compassionate consideration for those he views as victims. The comic begins with Edward reassuring Anna that she will soon be out of harm's way. He is determined to rescue her from a criminal organization that refuses to let her and her child break free. He fulfills his promise by assisting Anna in her escape from Gotham. However, before that, he collaborates with her to steal the crocodile that Mr. Stone used as a tool for committing murders without leaving any evidence, incorporating it into his sinister plans. Finally, he compelled Mr. Stone to take his own life. Throughout the narrative, it's emphasized that the Riddler perceives the world through a unique lens, likening a politician to a vampire-like monster. Additionally, he envisions himself as Batman, quite literally. To underscore this theme, we are granted a glimpse of him adopting the Batman persona, a narrative device that has been effectively employed throughout the series. This recurring device has lent the title the look and ambience of a horror comic, occasionally rendering characters eerie or monstrously, further intensifying the atmosphere. From a storytelling perspective, it was inherently destined to be an open-ended narrative. It essentially serves as the prologue to Matt Reeves' larger cinematic tale. Even Edward Nashton's quest for revenge against those who fueled his anger must be deferred until the movie unfolds, as Batman plays a pivotal role in that narrative. As Edward Nashton ultimately adopts the persona of the Riddler, the series concludes just before his initial lethal assault, which is depicted in the initial scene of Matt Reeves' movie, The Batman. Marvelous verdict. That brings us to the end of this video. This 6-issue series brilliantly explores Edward Nashton's transformation into the Riddler, revealing the intricate layers of his character and the events that led to his descent into madness. Each chapter of the story offers a unique perspective on Nashton's journey from his early days as a diligent accountant to his obsession with exposing corruption in Gotham City. Steven Subik's artwork adds to the overall atmosphere, creating a horror comic feel that perfectly complements the Riddler's fractured mind. As a prequel, it successfully sets up the larger narrative of Matt Reeves' The Batman movie. While some elements are left open-ended, it offers a deep dive into the mind of a complex antagonist. The Riddler Year One is a must-read for fans of the new Riddler and those intrigued by psychological explorations of iconic villains. What did you think of the character? Let us know in the comments section below. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with everyone you know. I'll see you on the next one.